2005 I was a very interesting year of video games, Star Wars, and as well as Star Wars video games in particular, like how the Xbox 360 would debut later that year. We were about a year out from the PS3 and the Wii. Hey, and there were several games released the same year as Revenge of the Sith was the film. We had Lego Star Wars First Installments, went kicking off its last successful Star Wars and Lego games in that vein. And we had Republic Commando, or even like the whole Revenge of the Sith tie-in game on PS2 I talked about here, which a lot of people didn't care for, but I have soft spot for it. But tonight's subject, that is one I've been wanting to talk for a long time, and given the events this year, here's my reasoning on why the original 2005 version of Star Wars Battlefront II, which I played most on the Xbox, was also on PS2 and PC, is my favorite Star Wars game ever, so let's get started. While, hell, it's kind of interesting to see how other games of Saga have dealt with this. Man, I noticed that another parallel with the newer ones, like how like the first one was pretty basic. It's like the second one more of an effort to have a story campaign, and how in this case, there's often two major approaches I've seen developers take with the saga to who faithfully adapt what's been given to them in the movies and other material, or to go their own direction by making stories that same the universe. This approach, I think seems to be the most ideal route to take. I mean, where you set your story within the same timeline of the movies, but you have one that wasn't shown on screen. In this case, you're basically playing out the 501st Legion in the wings of Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War, chronicling through their eyes the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. Here, I mean, I'll definitely be coming back to this as in other points in this video, oh, but this is always a component I really was most effective listening to Cody's journal and seeing how he described all this. I mean, it's just incredible, even after all this time. Yeah. Ever since the saga began in 1977, one of the simplest expressions of satisfaction was flying a spacecraft in combat. And ever since we've been making video games about the saga, they've been featured in some capacity. Ever since like Atari's 1983 arcade title, which was a pretty faithful vector recreation of the Death Star trench battle at all. While the first Battlefront and in 2004 let you fly some of the craft in the saga, actually take that into space was realized here, and actually was done quite effectively, where you can fight other fighters or capital ships, or in some cases actually infiltrate the capital ships to take them up from the inside, which definitely is the most ideal way of handling this. I mean, as and of them, I mean, of course we all have ones we enjoy, like the Rogue Squadron games, especially Rogue Leader, which is also my top 5 favorite GameCube games ever, and also the whole more recent Star Wars Squadrons, which capture the simple joy of creating your own star pilot and an aerial dogfight in space. But it definitely was another major improvement to what worked in the previous title, which is also going to be something I'll be coming back to in this video, including the next point. Of course, having playable hero characters, whether we're technically fighting for the light or the dark side, was definitely one of the biggest improvements over its senior year. While other characters were in the previous Battlefront game, they mostly acted more as assist characters than anything else. Where, but not only just being able to play out missions in the movies where Obi-Wan was engaging Grievous and Utapau, but also oh, missions unique to on this game, and where you take control of Vader as his rise to power has begun, and in some cases where you even have Boba Fett had basically finishing what his daddy started. I'll probably do a video on Book of Boba Fett as we're getting closer to that coming out. And also liking the variety they have in there, where of course there's and also even like a whole hero versus hero mode where you can also just have the utter chaos of us, which is definitely not canonical by any stretch. It's where her having being Han getting to like a blaster fight with Grievous. It's just that's all you need is the imagination of a young man playing with the Star Wars stuff in their backyard, and the rest is basically done for you. Whether you want to hate your favorite canonical stories or just go completely off the rails. It's just to have the absurdity of Vader dueling with Aayla Secura. So, I just kind of love also that kind of stuff, even playing the newer ones. But I'm gonna stay here focused because another improvement I want to talk about the next point here. This is easily the mode I spent the most time when I was younger in both of the original titles well before the reboot, and before the developer went defunct. Galactic Conquest. In the first one, all you did was just battle your enemy one planet at a time. I'm on two distinct battlefields. You had to win on both battlefields in order to claim the planet. And this one added a lot more material from the saga, given how it released concurrently with the release of Revenge of the Sith on DVD, which was a big deal at the time. Just trying the demo at a friend's house with the Xbox was definitely and when I actually got this game, I spent so much in this mode where how you added more planets, more options, and how definitely made the strategy a lot more complex of how you had to for your units and your or other resources, where it's not like everything being unlimited had with the ammunition or some modes having a set amount of reinforcements and others not, where you had to decide whether you want to use supply cache, want to have like a garrison of extra fighters. And of course, this also ties into the other points I mentioned before, and a couple others I'll definitely mention in this video as well. I've mentioned this before in other videos I've done, but typically my criteria for a good licensed game, one of the two is pretty simple. Is being faithful to source material, which when it's done well, it's definitely one of the best aspects, and this game is really no exception. Not only does it actually play pretty close to a lot of the events established in Revenge of the Sith, especially for its storyline, as well as like the first two who who chapters of the original trilogy. But it also adds more details with the data log before Order 66 on any Takanjai temple being a very effective one, and which you not only play out with that mission of having to turn on their former comrades, but also adds a detail which incidentally will be revisited in a different way in the case of both the final season of the Lonely Clone Wars and now the Bad Batch. And I usually don't focus on what an adaptation and leaves out to change. I actually focus more on what they add to material. Like how, again, why some versions of Batman have him dancing all his bright poppy colors, and others has have him in doing this in this kind of dark and dingy detective story, right? But that's not for another day. I mean, it's still oh for many games that have this kind of storyline that many have tried to surpass, but few have succeeded. I mean, I'll admit, I mean, since it's definitely a very effective method of handling the story. So, right, and now gonna bring it on home here. Yep. This is pretty basic for any sequel to help expand upon on its senior, especially in terms of video games. But if they nail it, it tends to be pretty effective in its own right. Where here, not just offering more what people like before, or by expanding on previous gameplay concepts, but also refining any ones that needed more time in the previous game, and but they couldn't at the time. Which I think is definitely the most ideal mixture to get right, and one this game nails. I mean, where there's a difference between like preparing a dish with just a little bit of new spice, but keeping the core idea, yeah, intact, and as opposed to dousing it in some overpowering sauce you can't even tell what you're eating anymore. Or I mean, and that is something that I believe if this game fully nailed. I mean, given how I played this one so much on the Xbox back in the day, I actually wore the disc out. I mean, out and I gather they re-released it on Games with Gold as well as a PC version on God.com, which specializes in giving new life to games that would otherwise wouldn't be compatible with newer operating systems and hardware. Uh, and even when I tweeted out Aspire Hair Media, who have have remastered a lot of Star Wars games I've loved, including some on this channel, include as well as they're working on one Knights of the Republic as well as a full-on remake for the PS5. I'm actually asked them if they had any plans to do this and the first game 2004, and they actually seem pretty into the idea. Given how the original developers are defunct, and have a name that's kind of awkward now for a number of reasons, and that in a whole is why the original Star Wars Battlefront 2005 is my favorite Xbox game and my favorite Star Wars game ever. Or as you can tell from the opening of this video, this definitely is dedicated to my late brother, Sean, who was my brother. I loved him, and he will forever be my brother in arms. So I definitely want to do this video for a long time. Even before he passed, and I can consider this my parting gift to him. So wherever you are, bud, may the force be with you. I'll be off for now. Take care, everyone.